Okay, so it starts. Okay, so the recording started. So thanks everyone for attending and for signing up. Um, just quick introduction. My name is James Malloy. I'm the deputy librarian. I started here, as I mentioned, back in July of last year, coming from UCD, and in UCD, for about oh, close to 15 years, have been working with the College of Engineering and Architecture, and then for a couple of years at the College of Business, um, working with staff and students around kind of uh, information literacy training and kind of student engagement. So, since starting here, I'm like yourself also getting familiar with what IADT Library has to offer in terms of resources, so databases, journals, and also our kind of our search systems. So that's what I'm going to concentrate on today. And I've sent kind of a kind of an overview. So it's an hour. Hopefully, we won't go much over that as such. I know people have other things that need to kind of attend. And in terms of the outline, I'll keep to that. So things like an introduction to search strategy and design, advanced query construction, mastering database interfaces, and so on. So I'll talk through all of those various things, looking at the resources that the library has, and our search platform. But I said if you do have questions along the way, pop them into the chat, and then also some things we might just kind of on a one-to-one deal with afterwards as well, or a later date. Just by show of hands, who's actively doing research at the moment? Okay, so Judith and or even kind of a thumbs up. Okay, so people are, yeah, or have a kind of level of, or do you, or Loretta, you're actively working on research. Okay, so that's good to know. Okay, so people have things that they're working on. And so what I have here is the landing page for the library. Okay, and I just want to talk through a couple of kind of features of it. And just move this out of my way here. Okay, so when you move on here, I'm going to get rid of this IADT chat for a start. Okay, so we don't really need that. And just to kind of in terms of the kind of navigation and some of the things. So Library 101 here is very useful in terms of kind of a catch-all around the kind of all kind of library-based questions. And within that has links out to things like advanced searching and so on. But here under using the library, you'll see things about booking library classes and so on, borrowing items, and all those things, and research at IADT Library. So in terms of uh, supporting researchers, that links out to a page which we'll come to from another kind of direction. Okay, so requesting new material. So there's something that we don't have, for example, particularly if you're doing research and something that you think we should have in our collection or that you can't find, do consult us, because we can also help you with getting access through interlibrary loans or accessing other libraries as well. So there's always there might be something that we can either purchase or we can facilitate in terms of you finding it in another library or us getting it from another library as well, particularly with something that you really do need to read. Now I moved on to here where it says guides and help, and you can see we have our referencing guides. So these are been updated recently and cover APA, MLA, Harvard, Chicago, and MHRA. We won't go into them today, okay, but do take a look to know where some of these things are. Here we go down, you'll see there's a link there for staff and teaching, but we're going to look at this one here where it says for researchers. So here underneath we have researcher guides. So again, some of these I'm going to ask you to look at in your own time. Ones really of interest that we'll touch on today is a tier referencing management software. But there's a lot of stuff there around kind of open education resources, and like there's another one here on doing a literature review. But the one I want to look at today, just very quickly, is advanced searching. So if we click here and just talk very quickly through some of the features, because it's a guide that you can refer back to, and it is quite comprehensive. A little bit of a background about what advanced searching is. Okay, some simple steps. The first one here that we just, it's called quotation marks, or phrase searching is also referred to. And we're going to use an example here on the one I'm going to use today is just around renewable energy sources. And we're also going to look at a few other ones around, cyber stalking and a few other kind of examples just for something to work from. But actually, we'll test it. So with all of these things, it is really about how you test it. And I think it's really important because when we maybe first approach a database or a search platform, quite often people can spend possibly weeks, months, even years working on something without really having taken time to understand how it actually works. So standing back and even taking half an hour to see how these things work and playing around with it can make a massive difference in the long run. So the phrase searching is instead of looking for renewable energy sources, and we'll see how these kind of systems work, you can turn it into an exact phrase. I'm not saying you always use it, but it can be a very quick way to kind of refine and define a search as well. Okay, so an example here, for example, like social media marketing done as a phrase. Okay, and we give examples. Another one here is around kind of clickable subject headings. Okay, so we'll show you this in one of the examples, but you can see here on the system we're going to be looking at, which is our EBSCO kind of search platform. They supply subject terms. So here's one on a search around information technology management, artificial intelligence, and some of the author supplied and the publisher supplied keywords. Now, one thing I would suggest for anyone doing research is to keep a research diary. It's a very handy thing to do in terms of what are the kind of other kind of, you know, synonyms and keywords that are out there and that you could potentially use. So a lot of this is, excuse me, is a bit like one of the things I really like about this, and what I'm the nerdy part of me is about love finding things, um, and being a bit like a detective. So looking for the clues, and they're all there. Like when we go into kind of searching, it's all there in front of us. It's just knowing where to look as such. So looking for keywords, even in articles as well, looking for keywords. Now here underneath, you'll see things like advanced search forms as well. And lots of websites, libraries, database have a basic search and an advanced search system. So that's really important. Now, there's no right way or wrong way necessarily. I often start with a basic search and refine afterwards, or you can kind of refine from the start and then add to that refining if you want. So by doing an advanced search, it's entirely up to you. Okay, and there's examples here of how to kind of refine your search. Underneath that as well, we see around doing a more detailed search, more complicated search methods. Um, there's these things here called our Boolean operators, or and, or not. Okay. Generally, they're in going back, over the years, they were always kind of in capital letters. They don't always have to be in capital letters. And a lot of the systems now will either have them built in into a menu, or they either just don't really use them as much. But it depends on what you're using. And again, it's just about practicing and testing to see a search with the Boolean operators on or not, and what difference it would make as well. So broadening your search, these things here are called truncation and wildcards. Okay, so there's an asterisk and a question mark, and the truncation. You can see here in this example, it's a kind of a shortcut. So agriculture with an asterisk at the end will find agriculture, agricultural, agriculturist, and so on. Or robot will find robot, robots, robotics, and so on. Occasionally, like if you did the word heat, it will find heat, heating, but it will bring up the word headers as well. So it sometimes also includes kind of words that are irrelevant. Another one here is called wildcards, and here we're using a question mark, or you can also use a kind of a hashtag or an asterisk, and it's very useful for you wouldn't use it necessarily that often, but this example here will find woman or women, and the one below will find color or color, so the British or American spelling. So I suppose that's could be useful because you could potentially miss a really good article because it was published in the US and had the word color, in the title or whatever else. So it was a kind of a key word as such. So just to kind of pay attention to this as well. And then also you can combine, start getting into more kind of I suppose not say a bit more kind of advanced, but combining several of the different methods as well. So generally what we would use is kind of combination of these things and using the filters as well. And then the filters are built into each kind of database. And the one thing you'll see is that it will differ from database to database. Um, so the one we're going to concentrate, the one that has all the library collection, all our databases kind of combined together, along with our print and digital collections, newspapers, and so on. And because we're looking at such a kind of larger amount of information, it requires a bit more skill, so it is a bit more advanced. And I'm going to show you the kind of help section, and which will tell you what it can and can't do as such. So it supports pretty much all of this that we're looking at here, but that will differ to some of the other databases the individual databases that we have. Some of them are more advanced. Some of them, because you're searching on smaller pool of information, don't actually require the level of kind of advanced search features that are required for a bigger system, like the kind of confederated searching for the library. Okay. Also, I just want to draw your attention here underneath the advanced searching guide. There's one of the tabs is called research tools. Now I had a look at this earlier. Okay, in terms of time, I would just ask people to have a look at this themselves. But there's a link here. It's called Sage Research Methods. It's an investment by IADT in terms of staff and students or anyone involved really in research. So I would kind of urge you to have a look at it. I tried it earlier and just the network is a bit slow today. So I just don't want to be sitting here and it can taking ages for it to kind of, but Alice, you've done this guide, haven't you? And like it is quite comprehensive. It runs through so like it has a kind of a stats test. And there's a thing around like a methods map as well. So there's some background information about it. But again, if you're doing something like, what's Boolean searching or what's a literature review, it'll have videos and and so on. So it's a tool designed for researchers, and it's very useful, and I would encourage people to use it because for us to keep paying for these things, it is really about the usage, and if they're not being used, then well, we can't justify necessarily keeping the payment for them as well. Okay, so that's just some of the kind of the tools that are available. Below also on that guide, you'll see Zotero, which I mentioned, and Orchid. So if we get a chance at the very end, I can quickly kind of show you Zotero. I don't know if people are using it, but I would encourage you to have a look. And again, it's fairly self-directed if you look at the guide. The latest version of Zotero came out about a week to 10 days ago, version 8. And there's a few new features or advanced features. I haven't really had a proper look at it yet, but had a quick kind of scan. So they every few years they bring out some new features. Okay, so that's Zotero, which is a bibliographic reference manager. Again, designed ideally for researchers, but can be used by students and staff or anyone else conducting basic research to more advanced research. It's a way of pulling in resources from databases that we'll be using, managing them, storing them, and also it can help you add them basically onto your Word document or a Google Doc, and it will help with the referencing and keeps things like consistency as well in terms of your reference style. Okay, so that's one of the other features available. Okay, so let's go back a step here, and I'll leave that open in case I need to come back and refer to it. And I'm just going to go back here to the main library kind of page. Now, it's not necessarily obvious as well, but if you start searching here, this will search our confederated search, or kind of it's a very large kind of search system. But if you look here also on collections, you can see a kind of breakdown. You can actually search. So that will search print and our ebooks and our journals and databases and like our part theses and dissertations, our repository, everything all kind of thrown in together as such. Okay. However, you can also search on these things individually. So, for example, if we look here at our print collections, if I knew I was just looking for a book, sometimes it just can be easier. It depends on the individual. We all have our own ways of how we kind of go about searching, but I can go in and search on the print collection itself. So that's the 30,000 plus books that we have physically in the library, and DVDs as well, about 1,600 DVDs. Our ebook platform, Uh, Here it is, okay. And actually, I find it quite easy to search on it on its own. Now, since the start of January, it jumped from 250,000 ebooks to 750,000 ebooks. So it is quite powerful. So if we were looking at something like, here we go, say cyber stalking, there's an example that one we already had. You can do a search. So either there's a book that you know, or you can search around a particular subject, okay? And you can look here in terms of like they're sorted by relevance. You can work a bit harder in terms of adding other keywords and using the filters here to refine the search either by language or by subject and year. And also look at the book status. So it'll say owned and subscribed to by my library. Some that have unlimited print, copy and download, or kind of course reserve. Okay, so we put in some of those kind of filters. Other things there like author as well. Okay, and then you have access on the availability of the ebooks will slightly differ from ebook to ebook, but pretty much you will have access either to the full book to download or read. And we would recommend just to read it, okay, or if you are downloading, just to be sparing in terms of only to kind of download a particular chapter that you need as such. Okay, so that's searching directly on the ebooks. I'll close the ebooks there. Okay. You can see past essays and dissertations. We have our own institution repository called Illustro. So again, I'd encourage people to look at it. We're not going to concentrate on those today, okay? And also then we have here our journals and databases. So if we look down here where it says our database list, um, uh, I'll come back to this a little bit later, but we're going to do the sort of the main kind of search platform. But look here, we have a list of databases, and they're a mixture of some large multidiscipline databases, such as JSTOR, and Wiley, and a few other ones that are in there, the Science Direct as well, and then also some very specialist ones. So the Film and Television Literature Index, there's Vogue Archive, the Irish where's it gone there? Irish Newspaper Archive. Now this one here, for example, the Gruyter Brill or Brill is new. And we had a first look at it yesterday. And what it many in terms of today, I was thinking about it is that we have to, when we get something new, we have to road test it. So we have to go in and say, I would have an idea what kind of world does it cover in terms of its coverage of, is it more leaning towards legal or law or historical kind of humanities and so on? What's the kind of main aim of this database? Does it support some of the kind of features like the advanced, construction around sort of Boolean operators? Does it have things that, does it use truncation and wildcards and proximity searching and so on? The only way to find out is to actually go in and road test these things as well. So that's the same for us, as librarians, as yourself, to kind of go in and start kind of playing around with these things. Okay. So let's just do a little bit of a search, and I'll break this down bit by bit in terms of the kind of features as such. Okay. So here's the library, and we're going to just put in renewable energy. I might try and spell it correctly would help. Okay. Renewable energy. I'm going to copy it as well. Just in case I need to type it in again. Okay. So when I hit this search, okay, it's the wheel spinning up here in the top, and it's loading our results. Okay, and we want to give a little kind of a breakdown. Look at this here. Okay, it's giving me just under 2.5 million results. Okay, which is fantastic. Okay, I'm going to go through now all 2.5 million results now in my kind of coffee break. Okay, but no, not really. We have to kind of work a bit. So it is a really, this system is fantastic. Okay, and it's but it has its kind of complexities, okay, because suddenly it's a really large ocean of information that we're searching on, and that requires a little bit of skill. And as I mentioned, is that often people start searching on these things without ever taking, because we're under pressure and we need to kind of get assignments done or research done without fully understanding what it is that I'm kind of searching and how it's kind of organized. So on this most basic, what it's done there is look for the word renewable, the word energy, two kind of common words. It has an understanding of that, okay, you're looking for renewable energy here, and it's given a little overview of what a definition of what that is. And look, it's brought a book there called Renewable Energy, and it's made a decision that this item here at the very top is the most kind of relevant. Okay, and it has a default that sorts by relevance. Now we can change that to date newest or to the oldest. But in terms of the design of this here, okay, in terms of the design, um, it is run by a company here called EBSCO. Now, when I was in UCD, they use a different one that was called ProQuest. So ProQuest, EBSCO, they're all kind of in competition with each other. So they try and do things maybe a little bit different. Ideally, they should be really making these systems as intuitive and as user friendly as possible. They want repeat business. But it has taken me a little bit of time to kind of figure it out and see what it can and can't do. Okay. Couple of things to kind of get us started. Okay. One is that here at the top right hand corner, and I would advise you if you haven't done this already, if you're using this, is to log in. Okay. So to create an account. So I can sign into my EBSCO account. So I'm going to sign in because I've created an account and I'm going to sign in. Okay. And signing in, there's a few things that you can do once you've signed in. So things like creating projects, alerts, are all available because you've signed in. Okay, you sign in with it's not through IADT. You sign in whatever email you want, so Gmail or whatever. You can use your IADT email, but you sign in kind of separate or independently. You're signing in with EBSCO as opposed to IADT as an institution. Okay. So that's one of the first things you can do is to create an account. One of the most important things with a system like this is this feature here. It's to help. It may seem a bit obvious, but clicking on the help, like I could have just sent you this link, and then I'll do myself out of a job or wherever else. But most of the answers are either in that advanced searching guide that Alice has created, or they're kind of covered in by EBSCO here as well. Okay, so for example, it says information hand doing a basic search, an advanced search, applying filters to your search, managing multiple results. You can refer back to these, and this is the point: is that I think most people just forget about to look at the health features, or sometimes they might seem a bit complicated, or they include videos and so on. These ones are not bad, okay? And the ones we're going to look at here today are the searching help. Boolean operators, so it's it tells you about Boolean operators and how it supports Boolean logic. Okay, so a lot of this is actually built in. Okay, what and or not means. Okay, so and is a way of refining a search. So if we had renewable and energy, we're combining the two search terms. Or as a way of expanding a search, I'm looking for renewable or energy, and I could say renewable energy, not wind power or something. Okay, and so I can exclude. So that's the not. So that's the basic way that these things work, and they give examples on how to use it on their system. So most of the answers are there. It's just about knowing where to look as such. The wildcards. So yes, they do support wildcards for truncation. So here it says the asterisk will match multiple characters. The hash sign matches one optional character, and the question mark matches exactly one character, and it gives examples. So they're compute with an asterisk to find computer, computing, and so on. And they're for headphone, but also we'll find headstone. So they show the kind of the pitfalls of using it as well. In terms of maybe some of the irrelevant results that it will bring. The wild card, again, for the British and American spelling, and the most obvious one there is color or behavior. There's a few kind of words as well, or pediatric, whatever way the Americans spell it, okay? And then, there's other things like question mark, wild card, and combining wild cards, and using the not Boolean operator as well. So it gives all those kind of examples. It's important that we know that they do exist and they work within this, okay? Now, there are things you can do right using a dashboard. In terms of time, we're not going to be able to touch on all of these, by the way, but I'm just pointing it out that these things, are at kind of there and at your kind of fingertips, okay? Now, one of them here, applying search modes, is touching on some of the things that we want to cover here today. So search modes, just move this here. Search modes offer 5 different ways to conduct a search You can combine a search mode with expanders, such as apply related words, filters such as full text, publication type, and so on. So the proximity searching, um, uh, basically it's built in, okay? It's now you just hit it as a search option. And what I mean, in the past, you would have had to kind of key in like renewable N5 resources and what it would mean, or sometimes it used to be W5, so within 5 or near 5 words. But now you just have to hit proximity and it will do it for you. Okay, so you don't have to kind of type it in. Um, you can also do an option to say find all my search terms and automatically searches with Boolean and. Okay, so that's built in, so you don't have to kind of write the Boolean and operator. There's an option saying find any of my search terms, so that will do the or, so that will expand your search as opposed to refining it just by clicking it. So you don't have to it'll do the kind of the hard work for you as such. Now I haven't tested this thing called smart text searching, but you can copy and paste chunks of text into a search box as well. But it has kind of limitations on it as well. And then finally, it also supports a thing called natural language, which is an option, and we can test it as well. So, which is more like how we put in prompts to AI, such as Copilot and Claude and Gemini and so on. So, it allows users to query using everyday language instead of relying on complex keywords or Boolean operators. The natural language search enables users to form searches in a more conversational manner. And again, it's just another option. And I would maybe try both. I would go for the kind of the sort of the Boolean kind of searching and the kind of natural searching as well, because it might just yield something a little bit different that you missed on the other kind of searches. So the more kind of searching avenues can approach, then the better. I'm kind of conscious of the time, so that's in the kind of help section. So let's just kind of do a little bit of the searching. Okay, just need to move my screen here a tiny bit. Okay, so let's just test this. So I've just done a basic search and I put in renewable energy. Now, one other thing to kind of keep in mind when it comes into kind of mapping concepts and identifying synonyms. Okay, so we're going to look for kind of, as I mentioned, kind of subject terms and clues as we go along. But if we take something like the word photographs, okay, there's other words we can use, kind of more kind of casual, like photos or photographic prints or photo images. If you search for those, it will kind of default back to the kind of preferred term, which is photographs. That's what the system will understand. So another one, for example, is eco power or clean energy will default back to renewable energy sources because that is a defined term. And that's, again, how these systems kind of work. And here with the natural language, it kind of gives a little bit, like you can switch this on and off. Okay. So I've already done a search. Okay. We put in renewable energy, and I've just clicked on advanced search and it says renewable energy. Okay, so sorry, I'll go back to the basic search. I just wanted to just test something here. So sorry, our search had 2,198,000. Okay, so let's just test some of these things. So we're going into advanced search, and the first one I just want to show you is if I change that to renewable. Now look at that, it's already giving prompts saying renewable energy sources, so I could change it like so. And then I'm going to turn that into a phrase and see what difference it makes in terms of refining my search, because there's no way you're going to look through 2.5 million results, okay? So we have to work to kind of get this down to a more manageable number of search results. It's not the quantity, it's the quality that we're looking for. So it's gone from 2.5 million down to just over 500,000, okay? So that's simply by turning that into a phrase that we're being very specific about what it is that we're looking for. Okay. Now if I go back to my advanced search, I can say and I'm just going to put in Ireland. Okay, renewable energy sources in Ireland, so a geographical location, and click on search. So we just want to test it bit by bit to see how this will work for us. Okay. Now it's down to 26,419. Now, if I click up here to the very top, it says all filters. Okay, and I have other filters that I can use. Okay, so I could say peer-reviewed, institution repository only, catalog only. It's automatically gone for full text and available in the library collection. I can go by published date, content provider. The one that's of interest here is subject. Okay, so I can get a bit more granular. So I could say, and I'm really interested in renewable energy or energy industries, for example. Okay, so I can select a few of these as I'll just select one of them. Okay, just renew energies. Okay, and what you have to keep in mind as well as you're selecting these is that if you go to do another search afterwards, make sure that you either clear your filters or they will just remain. Okay, so kind of always check between your different searches. So I have my filters here. Okay. Um, Also, if I go back here where it says advanced search, I can see a list of filters below. Um, and there's the dates and collections. So they're also listed here. So I've that option as well in terms of the filters. And I have my search options here. So that's the proximity search is set as a default. So that's the one where I said it will search within 5 words that are near to each other, okay? Or I can click on the find. Now you can only do one at a time. Find all my search terms. Find any of my search terms. So the find all my search terms will put the and Boolean operator in. The find any of my search terms will put the or, and then I have another option there again to use the natural language search. Okay, so the expanders, I can also search here. What's automatically selected is also search within the full text of the articles. So it's searching for renewable energy sources in Ireland within the full text of articles. I can remove that if I want, and then apply equivalent subjects as well. Or I can select apply related words, which will expand my search outwards if I want. Okay, so it's really good if you're getting very few results, but what we're trying to do ultimately here is trying to maybe refine it down so we don't expand outwards. But it depends how kind of broad you want to be or how thorough you want to be in terms of your search terms. And we're doing a very basic search here for this example. So let's go just click on the search, and we'll just add a few little kind of bits and pieces in here. The source type here at the very top, you can see if I just click on this, it'll give me the full list of types of resources that we're getting. So we're getting predominantly academic journals, some reports, magazines, trade publications, okay, conference materials. I'm going to just select academic journals and click apply. So these are kind of some of the options. I can limit by date. So there's some presets, so I can either customize it, put in my own date range, and then the preset ones, 10 years, 5 years, or 12 months, I'll put in 5 years. And now I'm going to say I also want to insist that, because we're looking at academic journals, that they're peer reviewed. Okay, so I want peer reviewed content. And also where it has relevance, it's made the decision, we're down to 411 resources or items. I can change it to newest, oldest as well, okay? Also because I'm signed into my EBSCO, what I can do is I can start saving the search, and I can save these here, and I can save them add to a project. So I've created some projects. So I could save this one here, and I'm going to add it to a project, add to project. And I've some already created. Actually, I thought I had one for renewable energy. I don't. Okay, so I'll just stick it in this one for VR for the moment. Okay, I'll just add it in. Okay, or I could create a new project called renewable energy and add it in there. So that's working a little bit similar to how something like Zotero works, like a bibliographic reference manager. Okay, so how I mean at this stage I hope I haven't lost anything. This for me would be relatively basic, and some of this you would probably know already. For example, I could go back in here to say my advanced search, and I'll add in another search term here of innovation, for example. So you can play around this and try different search terms. And that's why I said keeping a research diary is also quite important as well. It's 267. So that's not bad. I mean, you could go through 267, I guess, if you had the time, or add, for example, if I go here where it says advanced search, I can add another row and add another search term, innovation, and I could say projects or something, projects. Okay, 200 didn't make a huge kind of difference. All right. Okay, so we have our peer-reviewed articles. Let's just have a quick look at some of these as well. Okay, I'm conscious of time, so we've about just over 15 minutes left. What I want to show you here is what's really important is when you find a really good article is about leverage, about making it work for you. So again, this is the kind of idea of working a little bit like a detective. Oh, sorry, and there's one thing I also wanted to show you here, and I'm just kind of get it done before we run out of time, is this feature here called concept map. So I'm going to jump onto that for a second. German renewable. Okay, we don't want to do that. Okay, start a new search. Actually, you know what? I'll come back to it at the very end. We'll do this here. So let's just pretend that this article here from on-farm production on renewable energy is very interesting. Okay, and for the research I'm doing, it's probably I've hit the money. I've hit a really good article. Okay, when you do find a really good article, there's a lot that you can learn from it. Okay, or that you can kind of leverage. Okay, so here on the details, I can jump to the references. Okay, so I'm going to click on the references, and I can get access. See if I get access to from the reading material, and I can see the full set of results. There's more results, only showing me the first few, and there might be something of interest in those references. This article has also been cited once through the EBSCO suite or world of information, okay? So I might find something of interest in the citation. And then also where it started off in the details, I can see the subject terms. So here, the subject terms are renewable energy sources, energy industries, family farms, income, circular economy. So there might be something in there in terms of those subject terms that you hadn't considered that might be kind of a trigger for you to use for further searches. And then the author has also supplied some keywords: energy costs, energy output, family farm, and renewables. And also we're talking about the European Union. So that again might be something that's of interest as well. Now, in terms of our access options, I can either download a PDF or the online full text, okay? And there's a download option here as well. Now, one thing I like doing, I'm going to copy this article. When I do find a really good article, is that I like to pop it into, excuse me, I like to pop it into Google Scholar. So some of you may be familiar with Google Scholar, some may not, okay? This is Google Scholar here, okay? Now I am going to just show you very quickly one or two of our databases as well, but this is Google Scholar. So rule of thumb for me would be to search our main confederated searching for the library, search individual databases. And this can be quite difficult with students because they're going, well, it's kind of a one-stop shop. Why should I look at individual databases? Well, it seems like a lot of time and effort and so on. But each database is designed by a different person, and each search that you do, so on a large multidisciplinary database like JSTOR, and then I go into a specialist database like the Vogue Archive, if I was looking at, around kind of costume design or whatever, it's a much smaller specialist pool. It's easier to work from, and each one will yield different results. And I can tell you, if you test these systems and play around them and road test them, it's really important because you will see the benefits of searching across different platforms. It's not enough to just go to one place, okay? And Google Scholar can be quite good as well. So here I'm going to click, I've just clicked, cut and paste that article. And what I have also done is that here in Google Scholar, so you can, by the way, to define Google Scholar, just Google Google Scholar as such, or go to any kind of search platform and look for it. And look, there's in the top left-hand corner is a little menu. It's a little bit obscure. It's a little bit hidden, okay? You can create a profile. You can save items to your own library, okay? So similar to what you can do with EBSCO, you can create alerts, okay? So the way the alerts work is if you have set up an account, they will say, these are the areas that I'm interested in. When new articles become available, they'll come into your inbox. You could have your inbox flooded with articles as well. So I don't know, it's a nice feature, but it can backfire a little bit as well. You can look at metrics around what are the kind of the key journals, most cited and most highly ranked journals around a particular subject. There's an advanced search also in Google Scholar. And here in the settings, you can set languages, but the one I want to show you here is library links. Now you can also here set your bibliographic reference manager, and RefWorks, isn't it, for Zotero? I think it is. Yeah. Yeah, RefWorks, and for Zotero. Okay, but under library links, and look, you wouldn't necessarily know all these things. I mean, again, it's just sometimes to be shown. It's not always obvious. I think the designers of these things are kind of try and make things look really nice, but also some things are a little obscure and hidden. Um, so, I mean, like I wouldn't have known this unless someone had shown me all those years ago as well. So we wouldn't have just kind of happened upon it. I probably wouldn't even have thought, of looking here in the advanced features. It's very easy to kind of make those kind of mistakes and just start using these systems without really properly getting an understanding of them. So if you put in IADT Dún Laoghaire and then save and click on these little check boxes, and save, what it will do is that it will cross-reference IADT library with Google Scholar. So that article on farm production renewable energy, okay, here it is here. And the last one said it was cited once, but actually Google Scholar has additional citations outside of EBSCO's suite of or umbrella of information, and it will have its own related articles. So the related articles, again, it's a nice feature. It's not scientific. It just basically says, oh, well, if you like that, here's some other articles that we would suggest as well. But it will help because here's some additional citations. Again, we're trying to make one really good article work for us in terms of what else it can produce, and that can save as an effective way to work and is a good way kind of to conduct your searching. And also this here on the right hand side is appearing because I set my library links. So it's a good way. Sometimes when a student will say, or staff say, I can't find a particular article, this is a good way to cross-reference, say, do we definitely have it? Okay, because it might be available from a different publisher. And then finally, here, if you see another way to kind of work in terms of your searching is to look at who are the key people who write about a particular subject. So this, I know, look, we're maybe a bit off. This one is something to do with on-farm production of renewable energy, okay? But there's the person has their name underlined, okay? And what that means is that they have a profile on Google Scholar. So a couple of things. One is that it tells you what university or what institution they're associated with. Their areas of specialist interest, okay? And I know this is in Polish, but also brings you their kind of key cited articles, okay? Now, which hasn't been overly cited, this person, but also you can see who they've kind of collaborated and co-authored with as well, okay? So also what's really important there is that the person is traceable and they're not. This is very important, particularly when talking to students and in particular when trying to make them understand why they should be searching on these systems and not just searching on the open web, because we can say that the person is trustworthy and authoritative and reliable and they've had their items or their articles published in peer-reviewed journals, as opposed to just someone throwing something up onto the web without knowing their credentials in terms of that evaluation. So that's quite important. Okay, so let me come back to this thing here, the concept map. So I'm going to click on the concept map. So it's a nice feature here. I'm going to do a kind of a new search, okay? And we're going to put in, I'll put in cyber stalking for this one, okay? So cyber stalking, please work. Okay. So here we get a kind of a grid version. So I can see semantically related to, excuse me, cyberbullying, cybercrime. There goes my voice. Sorry, I just lost my voice here. I'm okay, sorry. If I click on the map, we can see related words or keywords: internet safety, victim blaming, sexual harassment, and so on. Okay. So it is a nice feature. Excuse me. There is another in terms of kind of research. There's another system here called Perplexity, and as you put a very simple Perplexity AI, and it's free AI powered answer engine. God, that's terrible kind of phrasing, that provides accurate, trusted, and real time answers to any questions. You do need to sign into it. And I'm not signing in because I couldn't remember my Google password from years ago. Okay, from my Gmail. So because I was using it for free, but then eventually it was asking me to kind of sign in. But again, it's very good. There's a few kind of things in terms of if you're doing kind of deep research or advanced research, there are a few kind of tools that are out there that you can use. So Perplexity is one. Now, one thing that's maybe a little bit controversial, but all the same kind of important when you're kind of working through some of these kind of terminology and kind of when it comes to research. So, for example, we could talk here about mapping concepts and identifying synonyms and so on, is to use AI. So Copilot, Gemini, Claude, and ChatGPT. God, I forget about that one. Okay, so here's kind of Copilot. Now, people might have different kind of views about using AI. It's not cheating. It's no more cheating than it's a tool than say using the web. It's cheating, I guess, if you're asking it to write an essay for you and popping that in and then not doing your work. But it is, I think, for anyone doing research, it is really, really helpful in terms of a research assistant. So why wouldn't you use it? Because it's very powerful and it can be very fast as well. So for example, I could say I want some background information on renewable energy sources, or using that kind of natural language. Or I could say something like I used earlier, saying, look, just testing it, give me examples of mapping concepts on CEPTS and identifying I spelled identifying wrong there, sorry. Okay. Clear examples of mapping concepts to of identifying synonyms. Okay, let's give an example here. Climate change. Okay, so not far off. I think climate change and renewable energy are very kind of popular ones to use because they cut across most subjects. From the science to arts and humanities, a lot of people are kind of doing different things that involve climate change. And here it goes. Look, a concept map for climate change, greenhouse gases, deforestation, fossil fuels, effects, solutions, and so on, and talks about the academic stress and so on. Okay, an example of identifying synonyms for teenagers, adolescents, young people, youth. So use it and use it wisely. Okay, it's there to be kind of if you wanted to get an explanation again of Boolean operators or using wildcards or truncation, all those things are can also be found through using AI as well. So it is a tool that is available. I don't know whether sometimes kind of people feel it's probably shouldn't be using this. I know the jury's kind of out in that in terms of academic institutions. It's not regulated. Of course, you have to have a if you're not sure of some of the answers it gives, then cross-reference against another kind of source as well. But I said if it's used as a research assistant and you're doing research, then why not? Because it can really make a difference in terms of the effectiveness of how you go about searching. So I'm going to stop sharing, and what I'm going to do is just it's 5 to according to this, or 4 minutes to 4. We should finish at 4 o'clock. Um, Feel free to put on your microphone and ask questions, or on your camera as well, I guess. Did that all make sense?
Yeah, thanks, James. Yeah, it was good to see it in action. So I think what I need to do now is just play around it myself, but yeah. few things I liked. I like the mind map thing. I like the concept map. I'm more a visual type person anyway, so I think it'll be good for me, but I think it'll be good to show to students as well if I'm working with them individually, and trying to play to their strengths. So if they're a visual person, maybe kind
Yeah.
of showing them that and stuff like that. So and then I'm presuming things like Perplexity, you need to just sign up to yourself. It's not like you
Yeah.
wouldn't be using your IADT.
Well, you could, but I think it's probably wiser to do it just using a
Yeah,
Gmail or whatever. Like, and it does default you to using kind of signing in with Gmail. I think when I was first using it, it let me use it for free without having to sign in. Then it was asking me to sign in, and I was
yeah,
just sorry, I just wasn't going to do it today in case it just took forever as well. But again,
yeah,
it's quite visual and it has different options. Like you can do kind of a deeper research, and it's AI again. It's AI, but
yeah,
it's without kind of research focus as well. So it's again, it's another tool that's out there. So then there's also ResearchGate. So I forgot to mention ResearchGate, which a lot of you I would imagine are already kind of on or familiar with as well. And then of course looking at our own kind of research repository. There's research repositories across, like again, like IADT library has all this kind of resources, but then we have our guides, but most libraries use libguides globally, so and have really good resources as well around from referencing or whatever. So a lot of the answers and the clues are out there. Um, I guess it's just kind of knowing where to look, or asking for help. So um, I think for doing a class like this today, the issue is that we, like, as I mentioned, we have to use an example and kind of talk through it. And it feels a bit Blue Peter kind of, here's one I did earlier, and we kind of go through it. And then people say, well, actually, the issue, there's either two issues usually. One, you're finding too much information. How do you refine it? Or I'm finding very little information. And sometimes you can spend a lot of time looking for something that may not even exist in terms of there's very potentially very little written on a particular subject. And I came across this recently with a student who was doing research on cyber stalking and the word limerence, which was there's very little written about. Um, so once you added that as a search term, the results went from thousands to like literally just a handful of articles, and never really got beyond that. So had to kind of reapproach the search as well. With cyber stalking really working as the common denominator, and then work from there. And yeah, so it really depends. So that's why I mentioned it is important to kind of maybe come and do one-to-ones, because the research you're doing may have particular issues, and what are the key databases to use for that particular. So if it has an Irish focus, some of the global databases may not be your best kind of bet. But the Irish newspaper archive could be brilliant, or we have databases there on kind of film and also on film archives, and then so there's there's lots of places to look and to kind of think outside the box as well when it comes to kind of doing your research. But asking for help or getting another person or someone like me or Alice, to kind of to help with searching can make a difference. Um, uh, so yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the recording and just thank everyone for your time here. And so that part of it is done. The